More than a dozen Russian motorcycles were destroyed, and a light assault group was almost wiped out before it could create a real breakthrough. This was not a major battle that changed the map overnight. No city fell, and no front line suddenly collapsed. But in a few violent minutes, the battlefield exposed a much larger warning for Russia. Russian commanders have pushed motorcycle units closer to the front because they need a faster, cheaper, and more flexible way to cross open ground. Armored vehicles are easier to spot, and once Ukrainian FPVs find them, FPV drones, mines, artillery, and sniper fire can turn the approach into a killing zone. But the motorcycle creates its own danger. A rider can move fast across a field, yet he has almost no armor, no strong cover, and very little time to react once a hidden sniper has already locked onto him. That is what makes this ambush so important. The real story is not only how many motorcycles were destroyed. The real story is how Azov turned a fast assault into a chain of confusion, where each target was separated, tracked, and hit with precise fire. Stay with this story because it reveals one hard lesson of modern war. On a battlefield watched by drones, the fastest side is not always the side in control. So how did Azov build this trap? And why did Russia's motorcycle tactic fall into its own weakness? Russia is bringing motorcycles into the battlefield because heavy armored movement has become one of the most dangerous choices near the front. A tank or a BMP can still carry firepower, armor, and shock, but it also creates a large signature the moment it starts moving. Ukrainian FPVs can watch roads, field tracks, and tree lines for hours, and once a vehicle is identified, the approach can be broken before the assault reaches the trench line. FPV teams can then attack from above or from the side, while mines and artillery force the column to slow down in the worst possible place. This is the pressure behind Russia's motorcycle tactic. Commanders need a way to move men across open ground without sending every assault forward in a heavy vehicle that can be seen from far away. A motorcycle is cheaper, smaller, and faster, and it can spread riders across a wider area instead of putting many soldiers inside one armored target. The role of these motorcycle groups is usually not simple transportation. They can move ahead to scout a route, test Ukrainian fire, disturb a defensive position, or search for a weak point that heavier forces may use later. In some attacks, riders are pushed forward as the first wave because they can cross a field faster than soldiers on foot and can change direction quicker than tracked armor. On paper, this gives Russia a kind of battlefield shortcut. A small group can rush through a gap, reach a tree line, and create pressure before Ukrainian defenders organize a full response. If the movement works, it may confuse the defense and force Ukraine to reveal firing positions earlier than planned. This is also why motorcycles are often sent through places where larger vehicles would be too obvious. A dirt lane, a broken farm road, or the edge of a field can look like a narrow chance to move before drones and artillery react. But that shortcut also carries a serious risk. A motorcycle gives speed, not protection. The rider is exposed from the front, the side, and above. There is no armor plate to stop sniper fire, no roof to block drone observation, and no real space to survive a near hit from artillery fragments. This means the same feature that makes the tactic attractive also makes it fragile. The motorcycle can escape some dangers by moving fast, but it cannot absorb punishment once it is trapped in open terrain. If the road is watched, if the route is predictable, or if the riders are forced into a narrow path, speed begins to lose its value. The danger becomes sharper because Ukraine does not need to destroy every motorcycle at once. It only needs to find the movement early, mark the route, and prepare the killing area before the riders arrive. When that happens, the motorcycle group is no longer shaping the assault. It is entering a space already shaped by the defender. That is why this tactic should not be viewed as a strong answer to Ukraine's drone war. It is more like a risky solution inside a battlefield where safe choices are disappearing. Russia is trying to trade armor for speed, but speed alone cannot replace cover, coordination, and control of the air above the route. And just as Russian commanders hoped these motorcycles could slip through the danger zone, Azov was preparing a trap built to break that speed at the very first moment of contact. Azov prepared the ambush by refusing to fight the motorcycle group on Russian terms. The Russian riders needed speed, noise, and a short window of surprise. Azov needed the opposite. Its sniper teams needed silence, distance, and a clear place where the motorcycles would have to expose themselves. That is why the defenders did not chase the moving group with heavy fire. They waited for the riders to enter ground that had already been studied. The key was terrain. Along the route, the motorcycle unit still had moments where trees, small folds in the land, or broken structures could hide movement for a few seconds. But farther ahead, the path opened into a more dangerous space. It was the kind of ground that looks useful to an attacker because it allows speed, yet it becomes deadly when watched from above and covered from the side. Azov sniper teams moved into positions that could see this open lane without standing directly on it. Some firing points could be placed near tree lines, raised ground, ruined buildings, or old fighting positions that gave a clear view across the approach. The goal was not to create a wall of bullets. The goal was to build a quiet field of control where every rider would have to pass through a narrow moment of exposure. This is where FPV support becomes important. A drone above the area can watch the motorcycle group long before it reaches the chosen point. It can see the direction of travel, the spacing between riders, and the places where the route forces them to slow or turn. That information gives the sniper teams time to settle, adjust, and wait with discipline instead of rushing into a late reaction. By the time the Russian motorcycles came closer, the defenders were no longer guessing. They could understand how the group was moving and where the first clear shot might appear. A rider leaning into a turn, slowing near a damaged track, or crossing a bare patch of field can become visible for just enough time. In a normal firefight, that moment may be too short. For a prepared sniper team, it can be enough. The strongest part of the ambush was patience. Azov did not need to reveal its positions early. If the first shot came too soon, the riders might scatter before reaching the most exposed ground. If the shot came too late, some of them might break through the dangerous stretch. So the defenders waited for the point where speed could no longer save the unit and cover could no longer hide it. From the Russian side, the open ground may have looked like the best chance to rush forward. From the Ukrainian side, it was a watched corridor. Every meter carried the riders deeper into a space where the defenders had already chosen the angles, the timing, and the first targets. This is the part that makes the ambush different from a sudden clash. The battle did not truly begin when the rifles fired. It began when the route was identified, when the drone watched the movement, and when the sniper teams selected their positions before the motorcycles arrived. If speed can still protect assault units under a sky filled with FPVs, that is a question worth leaving in the comments, because this fight shows how quickly that belief can be tested. As the motorcycle group pushed deeper into the marked route, Azov was not preparing to make noise. It was preparing to break the rhythm of the entire formation with the first precise shot. The first shot changed the entire assault because it was aimed at the structure of the group, not only at one rider. When the Russian motorcycles crossed deeper into the prepared zone, the formation still depended on speed and direction. The riders needed to keep moving in the same flow, because a light assault cannot survive long if every man begins to choose his own path. That was the weakness Azov waited for. The opening round came when the front of the group was most exposed. If the lead rider was hit, or if the first motorcycle lost control and slid into the dirt, the effect moved backward through the line. The riders behind had only seconds to understand what happened, and those seconds were enough to break the movement that gave the attack its purpose. A motorcycle group is dangerous only when it keeps rhythm. One rider follows the next, spacing stays open, and the group crosses the field before defenders can fully react. Once the first machine falls, that rhythm disappears. The road narrows, dust rises, engines keep roaring, and every rider behind the wreck must make a fast choice under pressure. Some try to accelerate past the fallen motorcycle. That movement can expose their escape line and make them easier to track. Some slow down to avoid the obstacle, and that pause gives a sniper a longer window. Others look back or shift direction too sharply, and those reactions reveal fear faster than any radio call. Azov's fire was not meant to cover the whole area with random rounds. It was measured and selective. The snipers focused on the moments when the Russian riders lost control of movement. A man who stopped too long became exposed. A rider trying to regroup others became a priority. Another who turned back into the path of the following bikes could create more disorder with one hit. This is how precision fire can damage more than a single target. Each shot forced a new decision on the rest of the group. Continue forward, slow down, scatter, or retreat. None of those choices were clean anymore because the unit no longer had one shared direction. The motorcycles still had speed, but speed without order began to work against them. The confusion spread quickly because the riders could not clearly see where the fire was coming from. The rifles cut through the noise of engines, but the source remained hidden. A rider under that pressure does not have time for careful judgment. He reacts to the latest impact, the nearest wreck, and the movement of the man in front of him. At that point, the assault stopped acting like a unit and began to break into separate targets. One bike tried to push through, another slowed near the fallen rider. A third started to turn away. Every separate movement created a different angle for the snipers and made coordination harder for the Russian side. The most important damage was not only physical, it was the loss of command inside the formation. The group no longer had a clean lead, a steady pace, or a clear path. What began as a fast approach became a field of individual reactions, and those reactions are easier to punish than organized movement. By the time more shots landed, the assault had already lost its shape. The first impact had taken away the rhythm, the follow-up fire had split the riders, and the open ground ahead offered no easy way to rebuild the attack. Open ground became the second weapon in the ambush because it gave the Russian riders almost nowhere to hide once their formation broke apart. From ground level, a field road can look like a fast route. It gives a motorcycle room to move, and it may appear safer than a narrow street or a damaged village lane. But from a sniper scope and a FPV camera, that same space becomes a clear killing area. Every turn, every stop, and every attempt to escape can be seen more easily when there is no solid cover around the riders. The motorcycles also created signals that were hard to hide. Dust rose behind the wheels, engines cut through the quiet ground, and heat signatures could stand out against the field. Even when a rider tried to change direction, the movement itself gave away the next possible path. Speed did not make the group disappear. It made the group easier to follow once Ukrainian observers had already fixed their eyes on the route. After the first riders were hit, the remaining troops faced a choice with no clean answer. If they kept moving forward, they carried themselves deeper into the prepared zone. If they turned back, they had to ride through the same watched corridor again. If they stopped, they gave the snipers more time to aim. Every option carried danger, and that danger grew with each second of confusion. Some riders tried to use thin cover around the route. A shallow ditch, a small bush, a broken motorcycle, or a low fold in the ground could hide part of a body from one direction. But those places were not real defensive positions. They could not block views from above, and they could not protect a man for long if the area was still being watched by FPVs. This is where the fight started to change shape. It was no longer only a sniper ambush. It became a hunt for reactions. Ukrainian teams did not need every target to stay in the open at the same time. They only had to follow each movement as the Russian riders tried to survive. A man crawling toward cover, a rider pulling back, or a small group trying to gather near a wreck could all become the next point of focus. If the snipers lost a clear angle, drones could still keep pressure on the area. FPV operators or drone crews could track the scattered movement and wait for a target to pause. A rider who escaped one field of fire might still be visible from above. A soldier who reached a ditch might still be exposed when he tried to move again. The battlefield did not give the group a safe pause to reset. The lack of solid cover made regrouping almost impossible. A light assault needs movement, direction, and trust between riders. Once each soldier focused only on finding safety, the group stopped acting as a unit. Those who tried to return to the route risked being seen again. Those who stayed down could not help the others. Those who ran on foot gave up the only advantage the motorcycles had offered. This is why the open terrain became so dangerous after the first collapse. It did not just expose bodies, it exposed decisions. Every attempt to hide, retreat, or rebuild the formation gave Ukraine another chance to track and strike. But the deeper lesson was still ahead. The true cost of this assault was not only the motorcycles already burning on the ground. It was the limit of a tactic built too heavily on speed. The ambush entered a new stage when the first Russian motorcycle group stopped moving as an assault force and began looking for a way out. Some riders tried to pull back from the open ground, while others looked for wounded men near the damaged motorcycles. The original plan had already failed, but the danger was not over. A few motorcycles that could still move turned back toward the broken group. From the Russian side, this may have looked like a quick rescue attempt. A van could rush in, pick up a wounded soldier, and escape before the next shot landed. But under a FPV camera, that movement created a fresh target. Every bike that returned showed where survivors were gathering and where the pressure was highest. Then the support element began to appear from the rear. A TV buggy and lightly protected van moved toward the same area, trying to save the situation before the assault fully collapsed. Their mission was simple: reach the trapped men, pull out the wounded, and restore some control before Ukraine could finish the fight. But the battlefield had already changed. Azov snipers did not need to hold the same firing rhythm forever. Once the support vehicles entered the watched lane, the snipers could reduce fire, shift position, and let FPV drones take over the most dangerous part of the work. The target was no longer only a rider in the open. It was now a moving rescue line. The first FPV strike against the lead support vehicle could break the rescue effort in seconds. If that vehicle stopped, burned, or swerved off the road, the vehicles behind it had to slow down. Some tried to move around the obstacle, while others paused because they could not see a clear path through the smoke and wreckage. The surviving Russian soldiers now faced another problem. Many of them ran toward the incoming support, hoping it would give them cover or a way out. But gathering near a burning vehicle, a roadside ditch, or a line of bushes made them easier to follow from above. Instead of disappearing, they formed small clusters in places that Ukrainian drones could keep watching. At this moment, the fight stopped being only a sniper ambush and became a hunt along the entire route. Ukraine was not just trying to hit the first wave, it was trying to cut the rescue rhythm and stop the support group from reaching the men trapped in the open. Some vehicles tried to drive around the destroyed bikes, but mud, smoke, and wreckage made the passage tighter. When a driver had to slow down or turn sharply, FPV operators gained the time they needed to choose a better angle. A drone did not need a perfect road. It needed only a target that had lost speed. Even a lightly armored vehicle or a civilian van with added protection could not change the situation if it was forced to stop. Its roof, engine area, and turning point became exposed under the drone's approach. The vehicle that was meant to rescue soldiers could quickly become another obstacle on the same road. Some soldiers abandoned their motorcycles and moved away on foot in small groups. By the end, the original assault route no longer looked like a path toward Ukrainian lines. It had become a broken corridor filled with abandoned motorcycles, blocked rescue vehicles, scattered soldiers, and drones still watching from above. What began as a fast attack had turned into a chain of failures, where every attempt to rescue the first wave or push forward only created another target for Ukraine. The most shocking lesson from this ambush is simple. Speed can bring soldiers closer to the front, but it cannot save them once the road has already been marked. Russia turned to motorcycles because the battlefield has become deadly for heavy armor. Tanks, BMPs, and armored vehicles are easier to detect, and once Ukrainian FPVs see them, they can break the approach before it reaches the trench line. But even a light and fast assault can still be stopped if the defender controls timing, terrain, and observation. The first shot did not only hit one rider, it broke the rhythm of the whole group. After that, every reaction made the situation worse. What began as a fast attack became a broken corridor of abandoned motorcycles, blocked vehicles, and scattered soldiers under drone observation. This may be the warning Russia has to face next. Moscow may keep using motorcycles, ATV, buggy, and civilian vehicles because they are cheaper than losing more tanks and BMPs. But unless these light forces get stronger drone support, better EW cover, and more accurate fire support, they may keep running into prepared kill zones. The bigger question is now open. In a war where FPVs watch the low sky, is speed still an advantage for Russian? Leave your thoughts in the comments, like and share this video, and subscribe to Military Force for more clear analysis of the weapons, battles, and political shocks shaping modern war.